What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Vocab Malone. You are now rocking with Street Apologist Live. We are in the mix. Very good to see all the people in the live chat already. Make sure you hit that like button, grab this link and share it. Yes, I have my brand new Hazakim shirt on order from Wrath and Grace. I only got it a couple days ago and boom, already got it. If you have not heard that Hazakim intro, that Hazakim interview I did on Street Apologist, you definitely want to hear it, man. Promoting their brand new album, which I was very pleased to promote. Well, tonight's a little bit different though. We are going to be doing our, I think, second show as far as live streams go on Kemet Science, as it's called. Kemet Science. And it's familiar to some, but not familiar to everybody. And we're going to watch a very popular, newer Kemetic advocate speak in this video. This video's been making the rounds, got a lot of traction already. We're going to discuss it, and to do that, I've got some great people on the panel today. I got G-Con, that's my man. You're going to see him in a second. And I got MJ Jackson, member of Shield Squad. So we got the Urban Apologist in the house tonight. Shout out to Nate with the super chat already, holding it down. And maybe Adam Coleman, also of Shield Squad, might be able to join us later. We will see. So we're going to take a look at this video, interact with it, critique it, analyze it as best we can in this time. And I'm very excited to do that. Hey, what's up, Lily R? Also, you starting off the super chat strong. Hey, everybody. Let them know how the super chat rules work in Mod Squad. Let them know how it works as well. All right, with that, I'm about to switch over, and I'm going to let you see the wonderful guests tonight. Let's see, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome to Street Apologist Live. Again, G-Con and my man MJ, but you both are knocked off. Where are you guys? What happened? Well, they were on. Where did they go? All right, well, everyone, I'm going to have to get them set up again. I do not know why they are not up in here anymore. Oh, somehow I got knocked off. Huh. All right, just give me a second, guys. That was strange. Skype decided to act funny right when we went live. Sometimes that happens. That's all right, though. What's up, y'all? I'm back. Welcome to Street Apologist Live. MJ and G-Con. Make sure that they can hear you. And what's up, y'all? How y'all doing? Guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm here. What's up, brother G-Con, brother Vocab?
What's going on? What's going on? I hear you. What's going on with y'all? Y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I just need to make sure everybody can see you guys. So G-Con, man, for some reason Skype is acting weird. It doesn't want to show you guys' face. All right, I got some kind of weird details to work out. I don't understand what's going on with that. I could see you guys easily on Skype, but I cannot. I can't bring you on for everybody else. Although right before we started, I could. Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to start Skype over because I want to make sure people could see you. So guys, stay where you are, and I'm gonna call you back. All right, let's try to do this thing again. I don't know what happened, but we're gonna start over. I'm gonna call you guys back right now. All right, so everybody does not know what Kemet is, but I've got the two best people, well, the three best people Adam calls that are sort of in my circle to address Kemet science. It is an alternative urban spirituality. Obviously, the advocates and followers of Kemet would say that, hey, this is not a new thing, that this is an older thing, right, is what they would say. But the question is it really? Is it really? Meaning the version of Kemet that is now being practiced, popular on the internet and all that, is that really the ancient version of Kemet that the ancient Egyptians practiced or something like that? I think that the answer to that is pretty much no. And so I think we can adequately call it a new religion. Not only that, but you have a situation where it's got all kinds of other things mixed in there as well. You know what I'm saying? There's new components and aspects mixed in to what is called Kemet science. And that's why the title, you notice, I put on the cover image is what? It says Afrocentric plus New Age spirituality, because that's kind of what this guy is going to relate to today, and we're going to see that. Hey, what's up, MJ? I got you back. Let me see if I can hear you. All right, now let me see if I can show you, and then I'll bring G-Con up. All right, I don't know what happened, but now you can be seen. MJ, tell people where to find your stuff.
on MJ Jackson, the Urban Christian Institute. If you don't mind, please go and subscribe, and I'll be sure to update y'all with some new content from time to time.
Your mic is going in and out. You got quiet and then not. I don't know what you can do differently.
All right, can y'all hear me better?
Whatever you could do on your end, because I got you up all the way.
How about now?
You're getting better. Everybody, let me know if you can hear him. And MJ Jackson, I put on the screen there, the Urban Christian Institute, so people could see that. And you do YouTube videos, and you do stuff on Kemet science. Can you explain to everybody what it is real quick and why you do that? I'm going to try to get G-Con up in here as well.
All right, if y'all can hear me pretty good, the reason why I felt the need, the pressing need to deal with Kemetic ideology and things of that sort was just there was a lack, far as in the local church, I would say, dealing with those type of issues. Now, I've came across several guys within apologetics who are dealing with it, but I felt the Lord had pressed it on my heart to join the army in dealing with these things. And I'm just happy that he pulled my number to do so. So I try to make myself available for the Lord to use me in that area.
Nice. And tell people about some of the stuff you've done in this area yourself so far.
So within this area, I've dropped about 3 videos and a program on Kemet with Brother Vocab on his channel. It received a pretty controversial response from some within that Kemetic community, but we really just wanted to go ahead and lay the groundwork to build upon, far as understanding where this type of thought originated within our modern time and has been affected with the Western idea. Oh, it's a watered down Western version of it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mentioned that when you guys were off for a second. Hey, there you go. LaRon is back. So, LaRon, what about you? Why have you studied Kemetic science, and how would you briefly describe it to people before we start this video?
All right, first of all, what's going on with you guys? Back again. Well, what made me get off into it was because my brother watched one of the Zeitgeist videos, and once he looked at can you hear me? And so once he went off into the Zeitgeist thing, you know what I'm saying, with the Egypt stuff, Horus is Jesus and all of these different things. And so I began to study on that because he went off and he actually left the biblical text, as a believer. And so he started studying those things. And so I had a couple of other friends that was watching the Zeitgeist and began to be turned on by the Zeitgeist, and they left the biblical text just as well too as believers. And so that's what made me have to dive off into the literature and actually look what was going on, so I can have a defense against an understanding on what I was up against.
You knew people personally affected by it, and so that was part of the reason. And that's what happens to a lot of people. All right. Hey, what's up, man? I'm going to call you back. For some reason you got knocked off. Is that what happened, MJ? All right. Yeah. Let me see if I can add LaRon to this, because I had him in another call. I don't know how he got. I don't know what happened here. All right. Well, I'm going to play some of this video while we're working all that out. But much love to everybody up in here. That's what we could do for now as far as introduction. And I'm going to play some of the video we're talking about. Can you give this introduction a little bit to this video, MJ Jackson? I said a little something, but first of all, it's super popular. Actually, I went to LanceScruv. LanceScruv, that's the YouTube channel on which it was initially hosted. And I looked at videos, and I sorted it by most popular. That's his most popular video, and it only appeared 2 weeks ago. 418,000 views. The next one came out a year ago, and that's 261,000 views. So we're talking by far and away the most popular video that he's got. But what else do you want to say about either LanceScruv or maybe Brother Keston, the man who was speaking in the video?
Well, LanceScruv, how I found out about LanceScruv is I was dealing with some people within the church folk revolution, and This is a group that LanceScruv has often had on his show, and I began to, to check out some of LanceScruv's, some of the people on his platform. He really invites different people on his platform. Some of them are for the church, some of them are against the church, and LanceScruv pretty much gives off a somewhat supposedly I'm neutral type of thing. But as you can see with Brother Keston is banging on the church. He's banging on the church. So LanceScruv will allow certain people like that to come and use his platform to bang on Christianity, so to speak. Didn't have on his show, and I began to, check out some of
G-Con, turn Brother MJ down. You're back on with this. So, what do you know about Brother Keston or LanceScruv, or maybe the Kemetic tendency to always be banging on the church in general? You know what I'm saying? G-Con.
Okay, well, first of all, I watched a couple of his videos, and his main thing is he was raised in the church, he said, and so he began to see some things that was funny within the church. And so he began to really kind of like come up against the church a lot. But one of the things, I question, and I would like to ask him, if I ever get a chance to talk to him, why he never talk about the problems that we see in the communities. Since you feel that Christianity is the problem within the community, why don't you never talk about, those problems in the communities where we see that blacks are not really, dealing, even though they come up out of Christian homes, they're not really dealing with the morals that we see that the Bible has constructed there, and they're getting off into other types of ways of life. They're living a life of what we see unlawful sex, all types of murders, all these things that are high within the black communities, but he don't address any of those things. He goes right and say that Christianity is the problem, when actually we see Christianity fights against those very things. So I find that odd that he comes up against the Christian church. That's kind of weird to me.
Good point, and we're going to hear a lot of that when I start this. Shout out to D New with the super chat, and shout out to Lily R. She's putting your subscribe information in the live chat there, LaRon. We want people to subscribe to both LaRon and MJ. All right, someone said earlier that I was muted. Can you guys hear me now fine? Now, I hope you can. I believe you can. All right, so let me start on this video, and I'm going over to it, and I'm grabbing it right here.
You had no idea.
All right, so there is going to be some kind of noise in the background throughout a lot of this, everybody. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the first clip. I've got a number of clips written down here. And the first one is about the cave mentality. What do you guys want to prepare people for when it comes to the cave mentality? One thing that's interesting about this, is he talking to a white guy, or is he just talking to a hypothetical white guy? Because I didn't see any white folks in the video, but he says, I'm going to tell you who you are. I'm going to tell you where you're from. You're from a cave. And so it's kind of like, who is he saying he's going to, tell who he is? You know what I'm saying? That's an interesting thought. But here we go. So listen to what he says off the jump. This is 18 seconds or so in. Listen to about 40 seconds. He talks about the cave mentality. All right, here we go, everybody. I'm going to unplug it so hopefully you guys can hear it as well.
Teach you where you come from. You come from in a cave, and that's where you belong, because all your mentality is cave mentality. You always try to destroy nature. Black people don't try to destroy nature. You'll never see black people try to destroy nature. White man, the Chinaman, all of them try to destroy nature. When the Chinaman go fishing, he take a drag net and he drop it in the sea, and he drag everything to kill everything. Whales, every fish that you can imagine, he take it and he trying to get everything out of the sea. The white man, he go try to cut down every tree in the forest. Black people don't do those things.
I'm sorry. Right away, he's just kind of funny. Does he think all Chinese people who have ever existed, that's how they fish, with dynamite? I don't think that's true. But where's this coming from? The cave mentality, and then he sort of rails against basically modern technology is really what it sounds like. He sounds like a Luddite.
Yeah.
Turn up your mic, MJ, if you could. You're real low, man. I'm sorry.
Let's go.
Or get close to it. Kiss that mic. Go ahead.
All right, and I'm pretty sure G-Con would agree with me that most African Americans talk about the wealth of Africa and how Africa is so valuable and things like that. And how it has all these resources, but you got to go in. You have to process those resources like uranium and things like that. So, in order to make money, you have to actually go fishing in order to make money. So, I sense some major hypocrisy. How on the one hand, you want to pretend like you don't live in a civilized, a civilized time where you have to build, you have to clear out lumber and things like that to build. And I mean, how do we think some of those pyramids were built? How do we think some of those temple structures were built? Yeah, forests and things like that were cleared out for all that to happen. And even now, if we do want to get our hands back on Africa to make money, to find diamonds and things like that, you're going to have to destroy some things to harvest that type of stuff. So he's really not making sense, if you ask me.
So if you look in a bookstore they're in, you kind of look around, there's books and paintings and statues and carvings and stuff like that. How did they make those? Like those books that he reads, if he does, where those come from? And the building he's in. I mean, I just, it's such a weird thing to almost say like all white people, this is how they do things, and then all Chinese people, this is how they do things. Now, can we look for a silver lining in this critique? Yeah, it is true that especially during the Industrial Revolution and even in plenty of places today and throughout history, just like in every other area of his responsibility, the sons of Adam had failed. And one of the areas they failed in is in the mandate to care for creation. But see, as a Christian, I can go back to Genesis and show how God gave a command to Adam and Eve to say, care for this garden, cultivate it. And that care and cultivation didn't entail the abuse of. Now, it did involve sort of what you might call a healthy subjugation, meaning man is over the creation, and he is called to creation care. But that actually it paves the way for the healthy aspects of science, which it's clear that this man enjoys the benefits from. But it should not lead to the abuse of creation, because we realize that it's also made by God, and realize that that's one of the first things that God told us to do. There's a microcosm of creation in the Garden of Eden, and Adam and Eve are told to care for it. But I can point to that and say, here's a divine mandate, this creation mandate. What is he pointing to? Like, regardless of what he thinks is right or wrong, the question is, why is it wrong? If people did abuse nature, I want him to tell me his objective basis for why that's wrong in the first place. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't. Does he hold to Genesis and Adam and Eve and the creation mandate? But also the broad stereotyping. I mean, it's almost racist. Like, well, white people and Chinese people have technology. Us black people, we don't have. Like, what's he saying there? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. G-Con, thoughts on that? Because you've heard critiques like this from the broader Kemetic, world, which at the same time, of course, they like the pyramids of Egypt, but they don't like, whatever. I mean, any comments on that?
Right. So where this comes from is what you call, this is birthed out of Eurocentric thought perspective.
You mean Afrocentric?
Yeah, Eurocentric is Afrocentric is birthed out of Eurocentric.
Oh, right, yeah, because it's a response and a reaction. Right. Yeah.
And so what happens is why it's birthed out of that. Everything at one point was painted with a white face. Now it's being painted with a black face. So when he says that they come from the caves and stuff like that. This is, on the other hand, Eurocentrics was saying about primitive people that was in Africa. But overall, what we learned that even in ancient Kemet, as well as when you look in Europe and also Asia, as well as when you come to the Americas, caves are something that is very sacred. We all actually come from the caves. When you begin to study the literature, everybody is talking about coming from the caves. This is the reason why when you look in Kemet, or with Kemet is Egypt, when you look in Kemet, or when you look in Asia, or when you look in Europe, and also the Americas, you see what you call primordial mounds, where you see all types of step pyramids. You see also types of the pylons that we see that are in Egypt, and also way in the Near East in Sumer, where you see what you call in Egypt the pylon, which is down in Edfu now today to speak. Now, when you go through the pylon is called the Akhet, and it's the blessed place, the anointed place, and the Akhet is when you go into the primordial mounds. What this is two mountains that you see, and you go in between those mountains as the Aku. The Aku is the blessed dead. And so when you look at mountains within Kemet and mountains within other ancient civilizations, they were something in caves. They were something that was very popular unto Egypt, even unto Israel.
So what you're saying, hold on, let me translate. Okay, I'm sorry. I know you're flowing, but I think here's what you're saying. You tell me if this is not what you're saying. You're saying it's hypocritical for him to criticize sort of what he's basically saying is a lower, less civilized people group to come out of caves, when what he adheres to, Kemetic spirituality or whatever, caves are sacred in that religious system as well. So it doesn't even make sense really what he's saying. And I think another part of what he's saying is caves as sort of an automatic natural habitat, meaning they're a place of shelter you can dwell without doing any pre-construction, prefab or anything like that. I think the other part of what you're saying is that oh, looks like you're sharing your screen there. I think part of what you're saying by that is that that's not that it's not people have lived in caves. In fact, there's people that still live in caves. I mean, Osama bin Laden was living in a cave for a while.
Right.
I mean, Jesus was probably born in something that might have been hewn out of a cave, perhaps.
We all come from caves. Basically, it's something that is sacred unto us. Caves were our shelter. We even built dens within mountains, which we call dens, which was in caves, basically. So I don't even know why he brings up that argument and say, well, white people come from the caves, when caves was something that was sacred by all ancient people, actually.
All right, well, let's play this next part. This is one of my favorite parts. Here's where it gets on the part about the dogs. It's a part about the dog. Let's play this part about the dogs.
Here, the only people on this planet that are full human is black people, and that's a fact. There's a European guy. He's studied these things. He says when he did the test on the Chinese, he did it on the whites, he did it on the blacks. The only people that he finds to be full human on this planet is black people. White people got human DNA, Neanderthal DNA, and canine DNA. That's why they're always with a dog, my friends.
Man's best friend.
You see? And that's why I tell people I don't believe in God. Because it's these same people, if you look at the word dog, turn it around and what do you get? It's dog. The creator, how are you going to create the creator? God? No, the creator, what name you going to put on it? The creator is in you.
All right, let's start with the silliest part first, I think, which is if you spell dog backwards, you get God, and vice versa. I am not sure how he understood that was a powerful point. That is something, to be frank, children know. But even children know not to assign a pattern or a value to that fact that you can make an anagram out of dog. And, of course, that's only in the English language. I think he knows, I hope he knows, that Christianity was not birthed out of an English-speaking people. And so his point is actually utter irrelevant to the original text of Christianity. Whether you go to Greek or Hebrew, and you've got Yahweh or Elohim or Adonai. I mean, there's a number of, words you could get into Hebrew. In the English, in the Greek, you got, of course, theos is one of the examples, kurios, a number of other words. But is this a common thing, MJ, LaRon, to play word games like this? Because he does this twice during this thing. Help me out, because this seems low level. I'm gonna be honest.
It's low level, and it's in my opinion, it's disrespectful to black people. So
why you say that?
Why I say that? You have to think that somebody is stupid to just play these type of idiotic games. That if you flip a word, because we're gonna review this whole video, but he just said the reason why he reject the word God. But the longer that we keep listening, he's going to turn around and say, "Did you know that you are God?"
Right.
If God is a dog, everybody is a dog. And you got to press these people. He likes to run his mouth, and you can't let you got to start pressing them with questions and stuff like that. You got to start returning the favor. But it's disrespectful to black people because you're approaching me on a low level, and that really says a lot about what you think about me if you're approaching me with some garbage like that. So I take it as disrespect.
So here's the thing. So G-Con, he says that he taps into ancient Kemetic spirituality, right? You and I talked about this before the show began. Make sure you're unmuted there. I'm going to show you a picture of something, and you tell me what it is. You tell me what this picture is and why it's kind of funny. All right? G-Con, make sure your mic's unmuted.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep. Who's that, G-Con?
All right, that is Anubis right there, which is in the Greek Anubis, and in the language that's Anpu. It means to decay. He is the one who mummifies the individuals when they go in the Pert Imheru, the underworld.
So why am I bringing him up when he's saying, well, hey, white people are part dog. They have part dog DNA, and that's why they're always hanging around dogs. And the lady in the background was like, a man's best friend.
Right.
And I guess the implication is a white man's best friend. White people and their dogs. Maybe they have a point because I do see those Paris Hilton lookalikes kissing on their dogs, and that kind of grosses me out. So maybe they have a point. I'm just kidding. But for real, what's up with Anubis? I mean,
Ampu he's the opener of the way. You're gonna always see him in front of some type of throne, or he's the one who's gonna be over the body, preparing the body. His name means decay. So Anubis is his Greek name. Anpu is his name that's in the language. And so what he does is he's the one who mummifies the bodies. Now, dogs are very sacred in Kemet. Very sacred. They actually mummify dogs. And so the dogs are the guardians. They're almost like the cherubims that we see that are in Israel and also in Susa, Elam in the east. So that is Anpu right there. You might see him he's a guardian. He might be on top of the tomb as the lid, or he might be like we see the Sphinx, the ancient Egyptian Sphinx that we see used to be, some of them say Jakku Lake, which was Anpu, until they put the head of the pharaoh on it. And he's the he's the guardian of the way, basically, and the opener of the way.
This is interesting. This book says here that the Romans they ended up putting together basically Anubis and the opener of the way deity, meaning the Romans did do that. But according to this is saying prior to that, the Egyptians actually had two dog-like deities. Let me just read this entry because this makes it worse. Anubis was often confused with other canine or jackal-headed gods and divinities. By the way, that means they had more than one. For example, the god Wepwawet, whose name means opener of the ways, is depicted almost identically to the jackal-headed Anubis. The only difference is that Wepwawet is shown with a gray or white head, a feature that led some people to describe Wepwawet incorrectly as a wolf. This misidentification began with the Romans, who called the city in which Wepwawet's cult center was based Lycopolis, or City of the Wolf. The Egyptian Book of the Dead, a collection of spells and prayers used by ancient Egyptians as a guidebook for the souls of the dead on their travels throughout the underworld, describes Wepwawet as a protective deity who led the souls of the deceased to the underworld, just like what G-Com was saying. The close resemblance between the two gods led over time to the personalities merging, and their many titles have been interchangeable. These included, first among the Westerners is another term Egyptians use for the dead, Lord of the Necropolis, or Lord of the Abydos. Abydos was one of the most ancient settlements in the Nile Valley. This is a whole entry here where you could talk about the Egyptian jackal-headed deity that was a very important god to them, and they even made statues of this. And he's one of the most familiar of all the ancient Egyptian deities, in fact. So this is super weird to me that he's going to say, here's what he's saying, everyone. I just want everyone to stop and listen to this man's argument when you break it down. He's saying this. it's proven by some guy. He didn't name any sources. He just said some European guy ran a test. It's kind of funny. Hey, we're going to run the canine DNA test now, everybody. So this guy runs a canine DNA test, right, according to Brother Keston, right? And then what happens is he determines that black folks are the only fully human people on the planet, and in fact, white people have canine DNA to prove they're not fully human, right? And then he, as evidence, he's almost like saying Exhibit A is the fact that they always hang around dogs. They always got a dog with them. And the lady chimes in and seems to, basically say this is like a white thing, saying man's best friend, right? Does he think no one knows about, ancient Egyptian worship and cultic practices, that they have at least 2 dog-based deities with dog heads, for goodness sake? I mean, I'm just saying.
You can pull, the brother pulling the wool over the young man that he's talking to, and he's assuming the man's ignorance, and ignorance is always a tool for deception.
What's funny is the whole time he's kind of saying, if you're trapped in Christianity, you're trapped in ignorance. Everybody, the title of this video is called Christianity Strips You of Your True Spirituality. He is actually, his whole presentation is based upon people being ignorant, really, you know what I'm saying? And just next time an Egyptologist tells you white people have canine DNA and proof is they always got a canine with them or something like that, just say Anubis.
Right. And so we got some things here we got to deal with. When you talk about genetically, white people have canine DNA and all this crazy stuff. All humans that we see are the same. Now, typically, we are different. We have some things that are different, but our genetic makeup of what we are as human beings are the same today. And so when he begins to talk about these certain things, it's just weird to me. Then we talk about the cave thing. That was crazy. So like the brother Matthew say, what he does is he gets these guys that are Christians or either non-believers. If they don't know the understanding of these things, he can get them pretty quick. But somebody that is honest, that knows what Afrocentrics and their tricks that they use, then they can know that these guys are not teaching what Kemet actually taught. They're actually teaching what you call westernized, Afrocentric Kemetic theology. Yeah,
let me read one other part about Anubis, and then we'll move on to the part where he basically just totally embraces pantheism or panentheism. Anubis is usually depicted with the body of a man and the head of a jackal. Sometimes he is portrayed entirely as a jackal wearing a band of cloth. So apparently the Egyptians were like those Paris Hilton lookalikes, and they like to dress up their dogs too and put them on calendars and probably everything else, right? Around his neck, and sometimes holding a royal scepter. Although the oldest mentions of Anubis call him a jackal, some scholars think that the original animal might have been a wild dog. Many centuries later, the Romans thought he was a dog and referred to the barking Anubis. However, neither jackals nor Egyptian wild dogs are black, which is the color of the jackal parts of Anubis in all its representations. During the 2nd and 1st millennia BCE, jackals and wild dogs would have been a common sight in Egypt, scavenging around the edges of settlements and disturbing burials and even dismembered corpses, especially in the days before mummification. Do you guys see that? This probably came out of the fact that when you had some dead stuff happening, you got these old scavenger dogs trying to get a piece. They're like, oh, look at that. And that's why, if you look at this picture, now I know you guys can't really see it, this picture is showing the jackal-headed dog deity helping with mummification. He's actually wrapping up a body in this picture. That's what he's doing. So this is a real helpful dog, man. That'd be my best friend too if he's gonna help bury me, you know what I'm saying? But this stuff is, they try to get you, man. They try to get you with this, man. We're not gonna let them. All right, let's listen to this pantheism right here, everybody.
Is in me, is in him, is in everything. The Great Spirit encompass.
By the way, if God is in everything, wouldn't that include dogs? So why would it be so bad to have canine DNA and have a dog around you anyway? I'm just saying, Brother Keston, because that's what he just said there.
Everything, because everything is alive and moves. You are part of the all, and the all is a part of you. That's why you are spirit and they are not. They cannot connect to spirituality because they don't have no spirit. You are spirit having a human experience. The Creator put you here for a purpose. And your purpose in the flesh is to master the flesh. Once you master the flesh, you don't need to be here no more. They can't vibrate on the same level that you do. They don't. How are they going to do that? That's why I said you are full human. They are not. They don't have the connection to the Creator that you have.
That's classic racism, by the way, to describe the other as not fully human. I mean, that's classic racist tactics.
That's why when you go and you look into the history and you go down, when they went to Kemet, they couldn't understand the spirituality of the African people. So that's why they make up this thing called Christianity.
All right, there we go. So, guys, that's the part where So how much of this is standard Kemet, guys? Help me out here, where he embraces pantheism or panentheism. Let me know. MJ, you go first, or maybe then LaRon. How standard is this part of Kemetic spirituality?
All right. As far as the standardization of Kemetic spirituality, I would say that some of it is when it's convenient, if you know what I mean. And some of it is just the flat out New Age type of thinking that Dr. Walter Martin warned us and wrote about, where you bring over Hinduistic concepts such as God is all and all is God and things like that. And we can, it's pantheistic monism, so to speak, where the whole reality is one. And when you use things like God, it's some type of whenever you hear the word vibrations or energy or something like that, you're dealing with somebody who's borrowing some New Age Hinduistic concepts. So I would say that some of it is, and some of it is a flat out borrowing.
What about you, LaRon? Like, this kind of everything is God and God is in everything. How often do you hear that when you deal with Kemets? Kemets, I always mess that up.
Well, in Kemet, you go up the Nile, you go down the Nile, you got different groups of people that speak different languages. And so you got different followers. You may have the followers of Heru, the followers of Seth, and, Ptah, all these different people. But for the most part, in some of those places, you find that there are certain people that are definitely connected to God more than others. And that is those who are the royals. That is within Kemet and the priests, the shamans.
Now, you're talking about actual ancient Egypt now, right? You're not talking about modern day.
Right. And so the reason I'm talking about actual ancient Egypt, because when we bring it up to today, speed, then we see that, there is certain groups that is in ancient Egypt that do teach a pantheism, that God is in everything. But there are also other distinct groups to where they don't teach more so of a pantheistic. They teach that, a mono. You might have someone to teach a monotheism, or, there is just one God, and they push that strictly. Now, as a result of other tribes that is in Africa, they do teach a pantheistic movement of God being in everything in the trees, and nature is very lifted up and high. When you come to the Americas, you start dealing with people that have been, westernized. They all the way take the pantheist perspective. Remember, the pantheist perspective is not something that is a new concept. Is something that is really old. You know what I'm saying? And so we see that early on, people in Africa begin to look at nature as being the mother and father of civilization, and because they was disconnected from the very source, which is the Creator, which Acts 17 actually mentions those things. So I kind of just wanted to bring that out. So I think that's the situation with that.
That's good. And thanks again, everyone, for all the super chats. Somebody in the live chat, just so we can get a formal definition of pantheism, somebody look up a formal definition, say on like carm.org or something like that, and throw it up there. Go ahead.
And can we get also the definition, because you'll see Keston and as well as other Kemetics float between pantheism and panentheism.
Yeah,
there is a distinction.
Let me tell you guys real quick. So pantheism, Pantheism. Someone looked that up, and then someone else look up the formal definition, Panentheism. So both of those That's why I kept on calling it pantheism and pantheism, because of what you just said, MJ. All right, so here's the first part where he really gets on Christianity by name, where he starts getting on it. Let me minimize us, and so you can hear what he has to say, where he starts really getting on Christianity on this part right here.
Take away your spirituality, and you're not realizing that, because that's the only way they can control you. If they don't take away your spirituality, how are they going to control you? But they remove you from your spiritual self, and now you're dependent on one person and this invisible God. You see, we're not connecting the dots. You're depending on an invisible God and this person named Jesus and supposedly all these angels, okay, because they have to separate you from yourself in order for them to trick you. So when they give you a thing called Christianity, you give up your spirituality.
I'm a Christian.
So there is the first time this guy says he's a Christian.
Right?
I believe in Jesus.
And, you know, God bless his soul, he just kind of gets ran over by Brother Keston. So I'm not saying he said anything bad. He just didn't get to say very much at all. I'm going to read the definitions for pantheism and pantheism. And then, G-Con, can you comment on that part that we just heard? Pantheism, the belief that reality is identical with divinity, or that all things compose and all-encompassing, immanent God. Pantheist belief does not recognize a distinct personal anthropomorphics. And that's one good one. And then for no one did pantheism. Everyone's did pantheism. Where's pantheism, guys? That's funny. Everyone did pantheism. Well, if someone can, we got a bunch of pantheism definitions. Panentheism as well. All right, so G-Con, and that part, can you comment on what was said there?
All right, so what's crazy is this: in Kemet, you have what you call Amun, Amun, and it's A-M-U-N. And his name means the hidden one, or invisible. So, you know, it's kind of weird that he would say things like this invisible God. But yet in Kemet, you have an invisible God, Amun, you know what I'm saying? Who is called the invisible God, and also the hidden one. And so it's kind of weird that he would even use those things as analogies. And it really just showed that this guy does not know anything about Kemet. Kemet was one of the most religious places that there was in the world, and you know, I don't understand why he don't know these things, and so he begins to romanticize Kemet as if, you know, there wasn't some things that we see that was happening with other nations. And so, I mean, that's simple. When you talk about the hidden one or this God and how he prays to the ancestors and stuff like that, that is all. I mean, he doesn't really study Kemet at all, actually.
You're saying there that here he is kind of banging on the concept of an invisible God, but Kemet has an invisible God concept as well.
Yep.
Man, oh man. Okay, well, what about you, MJ, on that spot right there?
Yeah, I mean, you can see the hypocrisy, but once again, he's playing on the young man's ignorance, because what these guys love to do is to find somebody who's a little green behind the ears. And, you know, they love to be in the position of a person who thinks that they're teaching you something new, because they can wield that information. How, you know, if it's false information or if it's true information, they can talk with a lot of confidence and make you think that they're really telling you something that's true when it's really just new information to you. But yet, like I said, if we look at the primary sources, what he's saying is not even true. He has absolutely zero knowledge of what he's saying, and he's stabbing himself in the foot.
So, you know, he banged on Jesus and the invisible God. It almost seems like the Father and Jesus, and he's saying, why are you dependent on one person? Well, let me share a few things as far as this invisible God goes. Colossians 2:9, what does it say? It says that for in him the whole fullness of deity dwells bodily. And also, what's the passage? It says Jesus is the image of the invisible God. I believe that's also in Colossians, right? For in him the whole deity, fullness of deity dwells bodily. Where is that verse? Image of the invisible God. And I bring that up to say this point. It's Colossians 1:15. He is the image of the invisible God. So here's my point by bringing that up. He's banging on Jesus and this invisible God, but that's part of the beauty of the incarnation. It makes the God who is not part of this physical universe, that's part of the reason he's invisible. He's not physically contained in anything. He has no image, and that's why we're not supposed to make images of him, first and second commandments. So Jesus makes him known. He's the image of the invisible God. The triune God is made manifest through Jesus' ministry. Now, Jesus, of course, the incarnation is only the second person of the triune God, but you see the Trinitarian activity within everything that Jesus does. And you see that, for example, at his baptism. That's symbolic of everything that Jesus is doing. The triune God is always active because they act as one, even though there's three distinct persons. And let me show you here, John 1:14 through 18. And the Word, that's the second person of the Trinity, the Logos, became flesh and dwelt among us. We have seen his glory. And that's referenced back, if you look at John 12, back to Isaiah, ultimately. Glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. Now I'm going to go down here, verse 16. And from his fullness we have all received grace upon grace, for the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, the only God who is at the Father's side. He has made him known. It's saying that the only God, so Jesus is to be identified as Yahweh by John 1:18 at the Father's side, but he's not identical with the Father. He has made him known. And that's why Jesus says, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. He's not saying you're seeing the Father. He's saying you're seeing the one true God. And you see everything the Father wishes and desires by my ministry, because I only do what he tells me to do. So you have that Trinitarian activity even within the incarnation. My point by saying that is, he's banging on Jesus, invisible God. Jesus is the very answer to that problem. But the funny thing is, to flip it back, they've got an invisible God anyway, as she brought out.
Right. And also I want to make this clear, because SCP-Aki Patamatulu, he basically, like, I'm not saying, as I stated, he's misrepresenting Kemet. So, because I seen your comment, it says this isn't representative of true Kemetic spirituality. True Kemetic practitioners are not racist. However, we do call out the travesties, or whatever it says.
Travesties.
The travesties committed against our people. And so I'm not saying that, that's why I say he's coming from an Afrocentric perspective rather than what we see that is in Kemet, even though I don't subscribe to Kemet. A lot of Kemetics, they weighed, as you see in the Pert Imperu and the Amduat, the heart. They looked at the heart, and the heart was the soul of a man. So they didn't weigh nobody on what their color was or none of those things. They mainly dealt with the heart of the people. So this race thing is really something that is a new thing that we see that took place, that they didn't worry about back then. They dealt with people, in a certain manner. There was the native people of their land, which was a diverse people, basically. So I'm not saying that this is you. I'm saying this guy is misrepresenting Kemet to the, and he's not really bringing out what Kemet represented at that time for, his Afrocentric perspective.
Now, in this next part, thank you, G-Con, he is going to say that, don't you know your Pope came out, and your Pope said that Jesus never existed, and the hell never existed. Well, I'm going to address it before he says it real quick here, and I'll let you guys address it as well. All it takes is a simple Google search, and you can find out that the story about a Pope, the current Pope, supposedly saying that Jesus was only a metaphor. So there is a fake news story out there where supposedly you got the Pope, current Pope, saying Jesus was only a metaphor. It's from a fake news source. It's one of those websites that is always getting debunked. And, for example, Snopes, a lot of times, has to debunk stuff from the source from which this story came. And so that's kind of a simple thing. The Pope never said, past or present, that Jesus was only a metaphor, which is a little bit different than Jesus never existed, by the way. But nonetheless, this shows, the level of research is not real high. Now, let's just play a thought experiment here. If some Pope ever did come out and say that, which actually I don't put it past him. You never know what any given Pope was going to say any time. As Protestants, that's not exactly relevant, because the Pope says all kinds of stuff that we think is a problem. The Pope thinks that he speaks authoritatively, infallibly, when it's in matters of doctrine and practice, when he sits ex cathedra, when he sits in the chair, when it's done that way, that it's infallible. He's the vicar of Christ, which would be kind of weird if he's saying he's the representation of Christ on earth, if Christ is just a metaphor. You know, they believe that the Pope teaches, and Roman Catholics believe, that the Mass literally turns into the body and blood of Jesus, which is kind of a strange thing to believe, transubstantiation. If Jesus is just a metaphor or never existed, how could he have a body? So this is insane. But as Protestants, we don't know what a Pope's going to say, but we think the Pope, in a lot of ways, plays the role of Antichrist, meaning a substitute Christ is what I mean by that. I don't mean the Antichrist, but what I mean by that is someone who substitutes in the place of Christ in a way they should not. And the Reformers thought that as well, you know, that there was an Antichrist aspect in that he replaces Christ falsely. So maybe not, but the thing is, the Pope didn't say that. Now, the thing about hell, it does appear the current Pope did seem to sort of deny. The thing is, this current Pope, he says something, he steps back. He says something, he steps back. He's got the Roman Catholics in a tizzy because he says one thing that makes the sort of left side, the liberal side of the church happy one week, and then he brings it back a little bit, and the conservatives kind of go, whew, it's a big mess. Who knows what he's going to say? And this is why I'm glad we do not trust in the words of a Pope. But here he's going to say this right now, and then I'm going to let you guys comment on it. But I wanted to kind of preface it by that so you can think about when a guy like that says something. Here we go.
There's never been a man named Jesus Christ that walked the earth.
Let me go back just a little bit so you can get a little bit more of the clip.
Do you know that the Pope actually come out and tell you that there's never been a man named Jesus Christ that walked the earth? Okay, do you know that the Pope also come out and said there's never been a place called hell? Okay. My brother, let me say this to you.
Oh, great points. Well, if the guy's a Protestant, not so much, number one. Number two, the Pope didn't even say the thing about Jesus, which would be at odds with all kinds of Roman Catholic doctrine. And I'm Reformed. I ain't no Catholic. But the thing about heaven and hell, the current Pope did say some sketchy stuff that led a lot of questioning. But historically, the Catholics have not taught that. They have taught that there is an actual eternal conscious torment, and it's a main part of traditional Catholic teaching. But it just shows, like, these guys, to be honest, they just can't be trusted in their research, their scholarship. G-Con, what say you about that last little one? Is your mic on?
Yeah, well, like I say, you know, anything to draw away believers, you know what I'm saying, or just anybody that's heading towards that way, towards, away from, the believers or Christianity, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I see that's happening here. You know, he's using all types of tactics of somebody that don't know these things, and nobody's really going to fact check that information. And so we kind of been real big on, you know, like we got situations where they say, oh, King James was black, and you know what I'm saying, and then you got brothers saying that Negroes and swarty means the same thing, and so these brothers are using different tactics within these communities that you have to fact check that information. Always fact check it, because it's not saying 9 times out of 10 of what they're saying. They're so hateful. They're being driven by the hate, especially with the hate that they have for Christianity, especially the hate that they have for, white people, you know what I'm saying? Now, I can see, you know, when you start talking against white supremacy, because that is a tool that is being used by the devil, but to counter white supremacy with black supremacy or with anything that has any prejudice is kind of ridiculous overall. It's just really just you both being used by the devil, basically.
MJ?
Well, you know, if you looked at him, he looked like a basketball. I'm talking about Brother Keston, because he starts out, did you know? And then he said, did you know? And he kind of just smiled a little bit. So at that point, Brother Keston felt like he was on a roll. He said, I got one. And he started railroading the brother. Mm-hmm. And you know, popes say pretty crazy things. But, you know, you also have to, you know, you got to press Brother Keston. How do you know that? I mean, and that's just a simple question. What's your source? We got to start holding them to the same fire that they holding us to. What's your source for that, Brother Keston? What's your source, man? Can you give me some sources that I can look up and check you on that? I'm not just gonna sit there and check. No, I didn't know. No, I would like to look that up if you don't mind. So, he started railroading the brother with, did you know? Did you know this? Did you know that? And Brother Keston just said, my brother.
Got him.
Got.
Oh my goodness. All right, let me see here. So I don't think we can get to all these statements. Let me show you some of the other spots he said, and if you guys want, we can stop on these, but I got one I want to try to get to. There's a part where he says Christianity was beaten into you, 431 to 501. There's a part where he gets on Genesis 4. He does the whole where did Cain get his wife from, 520 to 612. He does a part where he says the Bible, when it speaks about only darkness covered the face of the earth, that means only black people were around, 633 to 658. There's a part in 735 to 755 where he apparently affirms the old earth position and says that it's a tactic for Christianity to teach you that the earth is young. He goes back to 8 minutes in, that black folks are the original people on the planet. And then this is the part I wanted to stop on, 821, in where he talks about how the Bible was ripped off from the hieroglyphics. But I mean, any of those that you guys want to comment on real quick? Because if you guys have already seen it, so you kind of know some of those parts I'm talking about. But I don't know if I want to. We don't have time to play them all. But comments.
Yeah, let's talk about the old Earth, young Earth. First and foremost, to try to get a date for the age of the Earth, scientists will have to make certain assumptions in the present and try to project those assumptions back in the past, assuming a uniformitarian, assuming uniformitarianism. Right. In other words, that the things that we see today would most likely be like the past. Those are assumptions. Can you test those assumptions? Not necessarily.
In the age of the Earth stuff, that's like, it's weird that he seems to diss scientific, consensus. But then other times when it's convenient to kind of go to a naturalistic, evolutionary, generally speaking, materialistic science, then he leans into it. And, I mean, if he's saying, a young Earth is a tactic for Christians, not even all Christians agree on the age of the Earth. It was just bizarre because he was. I think the reason what he was trying to say is like, hey, black folks have been here for a super long time. The young Earth tries to not help you like realize or understand how long we've been around. I think that's what he's trying to say. But it's just sort of a bizarre. It's just inaccurate. The most trippy one to me was when he said where the Bible says that darkness covered the face of the deep. He said that meant that only black folks were around. I'm sorry. That bugged me out. G-Con, is this a common thing they say, G-Con?
Right. And so what's crazy is this is because every human being that you see today is far from Y chromosome Adam. He has mutated, so far away to where, you can tell that there's entropy or degeneration that is going on within human beings and also within this world, within the earth. And so when he says that, darkness and stuff like that. Okay, when you look at what we will look at first, the first man, when we look at the biblical text, is Adam. And Adam comes from red or a mahogany color. Like if I told you to go get a red heifer or something like that, you go get a red heifer, which is a brown, it's brown. And so what happens is he will be the prototype for every man. He will be what you call the middle man, and then the spectrum goes to a lighter hue to the right or to a darker hue to the left. And so when you start looking at the coloration of the different things, it's kind of weird because he uses that text to say that this is talking about darkness because the black man was here. And that's really a bad analogy to use because clearly the Bible says that, God, he is using Christ to be a light to all men. You know what I'm saying? So if and so light even in Kemet was something that was, glorious. And we see that darkness even in Kemet was something that was, looked upon, as a way of, of something void or something that's empty. So to shed light on something was great. But even in Kemet, when you talked about the spectrum of colors, because they have what you call what is it called? It talks about the different varieties of people. I forgot what they call it, but it shows the different shades of people, and these are people who they traded with, people who they every day lived with. You know what I'm saying? It was native to their land, and they even warred against other people that was of the same ethnicity and other ethnicities that came up against their land. And these people stuck together within their land with people of multicolors. And so for this brother to use these analogies, and what's crazy is because the Kemet even got into it with some of the Nubians that was of a darker color to the south of them. They, you know, and so to use that, it really makes no sense, because the earth and nature itself, if you want to talk about nature and you follow nature, nature has brought forth, you know, when you want to talk about scientists say the different diversities of colors by the very decree of God. You know what I'm saying? God has really brought those things forth. So to really just say that this thing is just this text is talking about that the white man didn't come into 6,000 years ago, that is rubbish. And that is, I don't know where he got that from. That makes no sense at all. We see in their text, Moon, or whatever his name is, he's the one, I forgot, he's the one who creates the man. He molds and shapes the man, the vessels.
Let me play this clip real quick then, G-Con, since we're talking about it. I'm going to play it real quick if that's all right. Here's where he says it.
In creation, in that creation story, he says before these things start to take place, he said the earth was all blackness. What do you think that means? You see, you thinking blackness is just the earth is covered with blackness. No, there was only black people. Before the so-called creation of the white man, there was only black people. Think about this, my brother.
Let me say something here quick. There's another clip that's only, it's literally the clip right before the clip I just played. And what he does is he spends this whole time there banging on Genesis 4. Where he's like, hey, you know, you got a contradiction because there's no people, supposedly. Then Cain runs and gets a wife. You're not understanding. This doesn't make any sense. Like, you got to think about it. Basically saying, like, if you believe this, like, you believe in contradictions and you're kind of dumb, you haven't really thought about it. That's Genesis 4, the story he's banging on. Literally the clip before the one I just played. But then he goes and in his next point tells this dude, hey, Genesis 1 can be trusted, you know, where it says only darkness covered the face of the deep. That's true. That means only black folks were around before white folks. I'm just not understanding how come only darkness over. Now, clearly that's not what it means, but let's just say that's what it meant. Why can only darkness cover the face of the earth or whatever? Why is that trusted? And then you go 3 chapters later and all of a sudden you fill with contradictions in Genesis 4. Come on, man. This ain't how you do biblical. This ain't how you interpret. Man, come on, man. But I mean, that clip, is that a common Kemetic idea? What he just broke down?
But not at all. This once again, it's an Afrocentric perspective, and I won't say that all Afrocentrics do that, but for the most part, the majority are doing it, and they're doing it to counter basically certain things that was said by white supremacy and also some Eurocentrics that took the perspective of whitewashing, and so blacks come in now to blackwash instead of really just putting history back in its perspective, back in its place. Stop stealing people's cultures, tell their stories, let them tell their stories, and let's write it down and leave it at that. Now to address we stole from the Bible, stole from Kemet, and all of this crazy stuff, or plagiarized that. You know. We got a text in the Bible that talks about what is it, Romans chapter 2 or 3, I believe. I think it's 2. It says the Gentiles, which have not the law, do the things contained in the law, which is the law unto themselves, their conscience bearing them witness, where they inexcuse or excuse each other. And so we see there are universal principles. When we say conscience, the conscience is joint. The prefix con means joint or wit, and science means knowledge. So you have joint knowledge, and this is what we use as objective morality. So there's certain things that we have that we can look at objectively as a group of people or individuals, to where we look at as a whole, to where certain things is just wrong. So we have what you call universal principles, because we all have this moral compass that is within us, which is a moral faculty. And so when you look at that, that's why you see certain things that will be in Kemet, because as Acts chapter 17 says, we all come from one man, and that is Adam. And so history and different stories would have been passed down. So Moses come along and he gives you the true story, we believe. The story that is not perverted, but a true story, where it's not hyping up Israel. It's really telling Israel's story as a people are falling down from the Creator, and also as other people falling away from the Creator, which I find it odd that the text in Kemet does not really deal with stuff like that. But as far as plagiarized, we all come from one source. People pervert the information. Moses come along and he tells you the true story and teaches you about how to connect back to the true God, which is we see that Jesus Christ is representative of that, coming in the image and likeness of the Father and being the second person within the Godhead, which is the word to give you, get you back unto God.
Well, let me play this part, and then MG, I'll let you comment where he says the Bible's a ripoff. Here we go.
Down and see the logic in them, to see if they make, because the Bible came out of what we call Egypt is Kemet. It was took from the hieroglyphics. Everything that is in the Bible, they take it and twist it. Okay, the 10 Commandments came from
everything is a part about blackness covering the face of the earth, apparently.
What we call Mahat. That's where they bring that from. These things existed way before a man ever named Moses ever come on it, because there never been a man named Moses. The thing is, when you sit down and you dissect a lot of things and you listen to them carefully, even when you
like this video,
read about it carefully, a lot of the Bible is speaking about you and your people.
Except for the things that are twisted.
Africa.
What I have to do is just research.
That's what I'm saying. Research, my brother. I'm telling you, go look into Kemet and how this Bible.
And make sure you look into Anubis.
And how it came about. This is what I'm saying is because the Bible is not as whole a book as people think it is. This is what I'm saying.
Book of the Dead. Now that's a place to go.
So when you do the trace, the man that give most of us the Bible that we got today come from the King James version of the Bible.
No, you did not just say that. The man who gave us most of the Bible, King James. Hold on, we're getting a comment. Hold on, guys. I'm just making quick little jabs.
Okay, Shakespeare was one of the writers of the King James version of the Bible.
Shakespeare was one of the writers of the King James version of the Bible. Dear Lord, here we go.
The book of Psalms.
It's in the book of Psalms.
Okay, without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
What you have to do is to see these things and see the level of trickery that these people come with to keep black people in their place, my brother. Because everybody is against the black man. Even the Bible, they tell you, they have hated my people without a cause. And my people has been hated by people of all the nations. There's no
now he's starting to sound like a Hebrew Israelite.
Nation of people on earth that don't hate black people. Because they know that black people are the true people. They know that everything comes from blackness. This whole universe is created from blackness, my brother. The whole universe is created by blackness.
What does that mean? The whole universe is created from a color? Now later on he says blackness is not a color, it's a vibration, but here we go. Or frequency.
The earth, dig in the earth, cover up a seed, what do you have? Blackness. Everything come out of blackness.
Okay, a lot there. MJ, I know you're having a lot of fun with that. I mean, look, I want to respect this man as an elder, and if I was there, the conversation would be different than a YouTube critique. Okay, I want everyone to understand that. You know what I'm saying? But dealing with it this way, this is super frustrating. This is a popular video. This dude is railroading this dude. And listen to what he is saying. This is straight up bonkers. MJ.
Yes, I mean, the brother challenged the young man to think about it logically, to think about certain things logically. And, when we use logic, we're using the laws of logic, laws of non-contradiction and things like that. But, to say that the Bible is a ripoff of Kemetic sources, we would have to look at the Kemetic sources and understand the philosophy behind the Kemetic sources and compare that with the monotheistic philosophy behind the biblical sources, where God is not dependent on his creation for anything, where God is self-existent, or where he created the universe from nothing, literally from nothing, and he has always existed and things like that. And we can compare the two worldviews and see which one makes sense of reality. And so when we do that, when we compare both of them, when we look at things like the problem of evil and why we have basis for complaining about anything, we understand that certain worldviews are just biblically certain worldviews are philosophically bankrupt, so to speak. And I mean, the brothers being allowed to say all this sounds real good and deep because we're trying to exalt one ethnicity above another, but I mean, it's not true.
Hey,
and it makes no
sense. Which psalm did Shakespeare write?
Was it? Well, he ain't wrote any of those things, but they tried.
I know, but I mean, I just. Which one is it, everybody? Does anyone? You say 46? Or is that what they really say?
No, it's 139. Is it 139 or which one is it?
I don't know. Which was the one that Shakespeare wrote, or is it multiple psalms?
Yeah, it's one in Psalms to where I've read it. What they try to do is they see a code word that goes down, like different wordings that goes down where you have to spell it out. It's so silly. You got to look at it. I've heard it before.
You're serious right now?
Yeah, it's really silly. Like when you look at it.
So Psalm 139 is the one that they see the code in.
I believe it's Psalms 139 if I'm not mistaken.
Or were you saying it was 46? Or are you joking around, MJ?
Well, anywhere where they see a shake and a spear, it don't matter if the spear is in like 20 verses away from shake. They're gonna say Shakespeare.
Wait, hold on. I want to be like, you're joking right now. You're joking, right?
We're not joking.
I'm not joking. I can get Anthony Browder's book right now and show it to you.
Wait, you're saying if I'm sorry, man. I'm not even trying to. Okay, man. My head's. Wait, you're saying for. Hold up, man. I'm a professional. You're saying in real life, if they in English see the word shake, and then later on they see the word spear, they put it together and they say that's Shakespeare letting you know that he was up in there.
There it is.
It ain't Psalms 139, then it might be 46 then. Let's look at it.
Sorry, man. Okay, man. I'm going to compose myself. Yo, bro. Okay. Because he said without a doubt. Do you guys hear? He said without a doubt. Like,
without a doubt.
Like that's a common.
Yeah, here it is right here. Yeah, shake. Yeah, it says then spirit. Where's spirit at? It's gonna be in the same. Yeah. This is right here. Psalms 146. 46, and it's another one too. I think because they always use it.
I believe it is another one.
Yeah, it's another one. Yeah, but this is one right here too. Because here it is. You see the word shake there. Then you see the word spirit, and then it's some other ones too. I think it's one more. I think. And they see Shakespeare is there. It's there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, this reminds me of I'm not showing it on the screen, guys, but I wish I could find this clip. Have you guys ever seen the movie Bowfinger?
Nah, I haven't seen it.
It's just the part. Oh man, it's a pretty funny movie, and I think this is it. Oh man, what if he's? I'm gonna play this just because. Oh wait, hold on. They'll get me, won't they? I don't want to play any of it actually. Ah man, I hate that Okay, well, there's a part in this movie Bowfinger. It's got Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy in it, and there's a part where Steve Martin says something like, "It's not Shakespeare," or "What do you want, Shakespeare?" Something like that. And Eddie Murphy's character loses it on Steve Martin. He's like his agent in Hollywood. I forget what it is. And he gets all mad, and he's like saying, "Oh, I see what you did there. You're trying to be racist." Da, da, da. And Steve Martin's character's like befuddled. He's like, and he breaks down how he just said Shakespeare to him, and it's code word for spear chucker. He's like, "Because you said shake and a spear. Oh, what do they say about our people? Shake a spear. You're trying to say that I'm..." And he does the whole thing, and it's really funny though. He sees coded racism and what Steve Martin was saying. I almost wanted to play that just because it reminded me of that, like Shakespeare. Okay, well I've regained my composure. Okay, what about? And I'm
Let me say this real quick.
Go ahead.
What he does is he plays on people's like he'll use the out of Africa theory. you know, because he'll realize that everybody came out. He'll say, well, everybody came out of Africa. It deals with the scientific perspective. You know, some of us might deal with, you know, we don't deal with the out of Africa theory because we look at the Bible and we see the flow coming from a different way, probably. But everybody doesn't view it like that. And so his thing is that everybody comes out of Africa. And so then, even with that, if that is the case, because he said the first man was black or of a darker hue, and everything comes from that, basically, which that wouldn't even really matter because God is not viewing people as what color you are in the first place anyways, and that doesn't give you no spot to get before God just because you're a different color than another person, or you just super melanated person, or you got this glorious power, because everybody has melanin in them, first of all. And so just because you're this darkest melanin, that you're just super glorious and all of this. And so this is what Afrocentrics, they teach. And so he's basically taking on those very things. And what he tries to do is he tries to get people with that, with the representation of, well, I'm this black goddess or this black god or something like that. And so I think that tactic is real wicked, you know what I'm saying? Because even though we know that, you know, we see that there is a recessive gene that we see, for the most part, we still, you know, make a difference. If something comes prior to, are you still representing the truth? And I think that, you know, as human beings, we have all misrepresented God at one time, especially when we was unbelievers, you know what I'm saying? And so I think that, you know, that has to be looked at too, just as well.
All right, well, I was just looking something up while we're talking. Somebody actually said, because, you know, I think, you know, I found it funny. Somebody said, and I think they were serious. They said, well, how do we know that he didn't? You know, how can we say that he didn't write it? Yeah, okay. How can we say without a doubt he didn't? Okay, so here's how we could say without a doubt that Shakespeare did not write any of the Psalms. There'd be a whole bunch of ways to do this, but a great way to do this is to go into the Dead Sea Scrolls findings, right? And when you see those, one of those included in Cave 11 is called the Great Psalms Scroll. The technical name for it is 11Q5, and the reason why that works is because the way the Qumran scrolls work are 11th cave. See that? So 11Q, and I believe 5th scroll in there. I think that's how they do it. So 11Q5, found in the 11th cave at Qumran, because that's the Dead Sea Scrolls, what they're called, Qumran. And it's actually one of the most substantial and well-preserved out of all the Dead Sea Scrolls. And there, I think, are 37 different Psalms manuscripts within the Qumran caves. Do you see what I'm saying? 37 manuscripts of Psalms found. And you have the Great Psalm Scroll, which itself is very, very significant. And paleography dates it between 30 to 50 A.D., 30 to 50, because the style is biblical Hebrew. My point is that scroll itself could have even been contemporaneous with Jesus himself, right? The Great Psalm Scroll. And all we got to do is look at these Dead Sea Scrolls, and see out of the 37 different copies of Psalms that we've got in there, and look at them. And guess what? What's the one again they were saying that Shakespeare wrote? Which one was it?
46, Psalms 46.
Oh, okay, so MJ was for real. It really is Psalm 46, and who knows, maybe there's even another one. But so all you got to do is look at Psalm 46 in the Dead Sea Scrolls and other ancient manuscripts that are before Shakespeare ever lived. And if it's in there, guys, Shakespeare could not have wrote it, because Shakespeare, as the argument goes, you can't write something before you exist or before you're alive. And so that's how we could say for certain that Shakespeare did not write Psalm 46. I'm glad I got that out of my system. This is
kind of gave it a later date, because now certain scholars are dating the Qumran scrolls a little bit earlier than AD. They might be giving them a little bit earlier than that. So there's arguments about that when you start talking about the scrolls that are in Qumran. So
super old, and whatever they are, of course, G-Con, they're way before Shakespeare.
Well, Shakespeare, so that don't even make sense.
And also, I mean, you know, the funny thing is, the Shakespeare used, I believe it was the the Coverdale or the Geneva Bible. He didn't even use, as far as what we understand, as far as the sort of Bible he had access to, I believe it was the Geneva Bible. It might have been the Coverdale Bible, but I'm pretty sure it was the Geneva. I actually was reading about this before today's show. Pretty sure it was the Geneva Bible, not the King James Version is my point. But nonetheless, okay, so what about the Bible being ripped off from the hieroglyphics? I guess that's more of a substantial argument. Here's why, everyone. There are legitimate parallels between certain Egyptian wisdom literature and aspects of the biblical wisdom literature in certain places. In fact, you can get books on it. This isn't just about Egypt, but this is one Old Testament parallels. It'll show places where there's some similarity between some other ancient Near Eastern document in the Bible, and that's not really an abnormal thing. I mean, because they're writing within a cultural context. The Bible was not written in a European context. It's by and large an ancient Near Eastern book, and it has similarities in certain ways, and this is a sort of a commonly known thing. And in fact, Solomon in Ecclesiastes said, I collected all kinds of sayings of wisdom and stuff, and so that seemed that would include some wisdom sayings from other peoples as well. So that's actually not even unbiblical as far as some of the wisdom sayings would go in certain aspects, and that's just a reality. You can get texts like this, the Ancient Near Eastern Anthology of Texts and Pictures, and with that, one thing about that is he mentioned earlier the Ten Commandments are a ripoff from the 42 negative confessions from Egypt. Well, actually, he didn't even actually specify that, but I think that's what he's getting at. The funny thing is, when you look in these documents by scholars of the A&E, what you'll see is they'll say, here's what you want to look at if you want to look at other comparative ancient law codes. They never have the Egyptian Book of the Dead in there. They have things like the Code of Hammurabi or things like that, and that's what you can compare and contrast when you're talking about Hebraic law codes. You compare other law code things. It's not Egyptian, though. So anyways, I mean, that's my spiel on that. But what do you guys want to say? Because that's more of a... Go ahead, Chikon.
Well, it's crazy because when we started looking, like you talked about the Code of Hammurabi, these are things that kind of predate even certain things that we see from, the 42 laws of Mayat, early. We start looking at these codes of conduct within different places, which everybody has codes of conduct. Mm-hmm. And so these are, as we talked about before, Romans chapter 2, to where the Gentiles which have not the law, but do the law contained therein by nature. So these are things that we see that people are doing by nature. And this is how we actually build government system. And we know that government systems goes back, super far. And so there's so there's basically codes and stuff and different laws that we see. And so to make this a thing to where we look at the and matter of fact, in the Pert M. Heru and the Coming Forth by Day and Wallace E., because it is in that book. It's got to be in that book, because when you get to the Hall of Judgment, when you see that the principles of Mayat, where the heart is being weighed, Ani described, when you get to that, it is there. You see the 12 judges, and then you also see that the writings there. So it is in that book. The 42 Laws of Mayat is found in that book.
No, I think it is, but it doesn't look like it's in the legal text, though.
Okay, cool.
You're saying, so so like within, are you talking about this one or the parallel book?
It's in the E.A. Wallace Budge. The 42 Laws of Mayat is in that book.
Okay. So
it is in
are you talking about this, or are you talking about the Egyptian Book of the Dead?
Yeah, Coming Forth by Day. Yeah, it's in that book.
Wait, which one?
It's that one right there. It should be in that book right there.
Okay. So yeah, that's different than these parallel books where they show other law codes and they compare it to Hebraic law code. That's a common thing within Semitic studies.
But
they don't mention Egyptian law code because that there doesn't seem to be the parallel from what the A&E scholars say. But it is in this book. Yeah, what
I'm saying is the 42 laws of Mayat. Remember we talked about before then, you was asking where they, and I was like, okay, yeah, they are in that book. Now what we see is the 42 laws of Mayat. What's crazy is that Israel's government is built with, like you say, there is a lot of ancient Near East, and there is some similarities between Kemet, but there are definitely some things that differ. This is why he's telling them when they come up out of Egypt not to do certain things that Kemet is doing.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. So and the other nations is doing, because he's trying to make them a distinct nation from other nations.
Stuff like like that.
Right.
Like,
So
like
so stuff. Yeah. So And if you notice, there's like practices that we see that Israel did not do. They didn't spend time embalming their dead. You know what I'm saying? There also are ancient Near East practices that Kemet did do. A lot of their practices when they laid from the Nakata 1 to Nakata 2 period, they laid their people facing towards the east, oriented towards the sun. Their temples was oriented towards the entrance of the sun. You know what I'm saying? To the east of the rising of that. And so these are things that they did do from an ancient Near East perspective. But then there are some things that we see that come into. These are families that all come from one man, which is Noah, which comes ultimately from Adam. So they would have picked up certain things that they was doing. So, overall, there is a lot of perversions that is definitely there. But overall, there is no knockoff or this and that.
Right.
Knowledge is passed down, and it's universal things that we see here.
And that's sort of a longer show. We could do a whole show just on that topic, but he mentions it in passing. It ain't like he gives much evidence, so we're not going to really necessarily deal with too much about that. But before we move on to the next clip, MJ, you want to say anything about what we just said there, though?
Yeah, Paul himself quoted a pagan philosopher to make a correction and to use it in a gospel presentation. So, we as Christians and people who, hold to the truth of the Bible, we can most definitely say that, the biblical writers did use certain things to correct a group's understanding in a polemical way, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's subversion. And that's really what the 10 plagues are about. All right, so listen to this here. Here's where he gets back into the less than human as far as the other folks go. I found this very interesting. Check this out, everybody.
When you look at the creativity of black people, my brother, that should tell you something in itself. Your hair on your head. You're the only person on this planet that have natural hair. You're the only person. Everybody else have animal hair. Look at it and look how it lay down. Most white people here, they hair lay down like a horse's mane.
Are white people horses or dogs? I can't. I guess a little bit of both.
This is a natural antenna that you have, my brother. It curls. You know why it curls? It says it's an antenna. It's a conductor. It's your connection to your creator. That's why they don't like you here. That's why they don't want you to grow your hair, my brother. Because they're trying to separate you from who you are. You have a direct connection to the creator. Blackness is not a color. It's a frequency. It's a God frequency. They know that you are God, my brother. What they call God. They know that's who you are.
They know you are God, which really means you are dog, according to his earlier logic. Hey, G-Con, how's your antennas doing, man? What you hearing, man? You hearing trucker talk, or you hearing from God right now?
Man, if I don't connect to God spiritually, I ain't got no type of connection at all. You hear me? I gotta stay connected to God spiritually through His Son Christ. You know what I'm saying? And that's how we stay connected and plugged in through the gospel. And we know what the gospel is. So the gospel is the power of God unto salvation to everyone that believe Him. And so bottom line is to stay connected to God. It means to be born again. You know what I'm saying? And so we look at Kemet. You have what you call the Aku, which is the blessed dead. They went into the Aket. And these guys, they had to basically stay connected with what truth and balance and order is. And it wasn't based upon what spirit they was. What color they was, but it was based upon principles and also, a high form of spirituality. So
hold up. You have longer hair. You have the antennas to hear from God, the God frequency that he's talking about earlier, right?
Right. I got the antennas.
Hey, does God ever use trucker talk? Is he like, hey, 10-4, good buddy? Does he ever do that when you hear from him for your Yeah.
Sometimes he might hit me up on the CB, you know what I'm saying? But for the most part, that ain't how that work. I've been having long hair all my life. When I was out there, I was sinning, I was doing everything, and so we see people in the neighborhoods that are black that got, long hair or got, a certain type of curly hair, and guess what? They still sinning against God or being destructive in these communities. You know what I'm saying? So whether you black, white, or whatever you call yourself to be, if you feel you got something that's naturally that gives you the benefit with God, that ain't gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing material that can get you the benefit with God, you better be born again. I don't care who you is. If you're an Israelite too, just as well, you need to be born again, born of the Spirit and the Word.
Now, if you have a hat on, like he did, I wonder if it's covering up his antennas. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I wonder if his spidey sense was tingling the whole time he was talking to that guy, or if he was covering it up. I don't know. MJ, now, in all seriousness, that's actually, from my understanding, that's Rasta talk. That's where the stuff he's saying there, that's what I hear from Rastas. Do Kemets include that too? Because when I look at pictures of ancient Egyptians, they be bald-headed. Half those dudes are bald-headed.
Right. Now you heard. Now here's what's crazy. If you look at the Kemet and you look at the race, what is it? I forgot what they call it, where it talks about the different races. Now, if you look at their chart, the chart of races that's on the different colors, it's the Libyans, which are of a lighter color, that you see actually with the dreads in their head. That's what's crazy, though. But
okay. That is
yeah. So they got the tattoo art and they got the dreads in their head. You know, up in Libya. I'm saying in those areas, so it's kind of crazy, yo.
Now, MJ, I'm gonna let you comment on this next clip, and I'm a little jealous because this is my favorite clip of the whole joint. This is where he gets into Return of the Jedi talk, and you already know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna play it. It's about 1:40 or something, but I'm gonna let you come back and comment first, okay? Make sure your mic's unmuted when you come back. But right now, I'm gonna G-Con, I think you just dropped out. But I'm gonna play this part right now. We'll try to reconnect with G-Con. And this is probably my favorite part. So you got it first when we come back. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
That you are part of the whole. That's why the Bible says Almighty. You know what it says? But if you don't read things and get it in its context.
Real quick, I want everyone to understand what he's saying there. He's saying when the Bible says Almighty, it's saying that all are mighty. Because he's saying you're a part of the all. That's actually the word game he just played. We'll talk about that later, but here's the main part.
It says that all are mighty. You are a part, because you don't know how powerful you are. My brother, if you know your power, you can stand here and make any chair or table in this room move. Because you have that ability, but you don't know. Because you are limitless. But you
that would make church cleanup after church a lot easier if that was true.
Know that, because the system doesn't teach you that. But if you go back to your African way of life, it is going to give you that what you need to look into yourself and know yourself. That's why it says if you go to Egypt or Kemet, first thing you will see on those pyramids, know thyself. Because when you know yourself, you're going to know how powerful you are. That you people who is spooky to make things move around. The mind, the spirit, my brother. It's got, how do you think they didn't have no crane when they make those pyramids, and they can't figure out how they put those huge stones together. How do you think they get them there? They didn't have no crane. My brother, they make those stones move without touching them. And everything fall into place. Believe it or not. That's how powerful the ancestors that you come from are. Because they knew themselves. And these people went to Kemet or to Egypt, and they took that knowledge for themselves.
Does that mean that white folks, if they took this knowledge, they can now move stuff around with their mind if they've got the knowledge? I don't know how that works. Or is it something like how the Sith are the only ones who can do the lightning, the force lightning? Maybe this is something that only the ancient Kemets can do. So, MJ, what do you have to say about the force powers clip?
Okay, yeah, this brother's getting into some heavy stuff. Some new age type of stuff. Brother Jabari, who wrote the book 7 White Lies, he documented that the people who built the pyramids were not Hebrew slaves. So we can thank him for taking care of the documentation by demonstrating from some of the grave sites how certain workers had certain stress on their limbs and joints and things like that, where he gives pretty decent evidence that these workers were the ones who did indeed build the pyramids. So we can, I don't know if he can give us some evidence that people levitated certain things and move certain things with the mind. But I mean, Dr. Walter Martin has documented some crazy stuff in his book Kingdom of the Cults regarding certain things. So I do believe that there is a supernatural element out there where people tap into certain demonic forces and things like that, where you can enter into the supernatural through the back door per se and do some weird things. But I'm not looking to expose myself to things like that.
All right, LaRon, is this a common Kemetic teaching that you can move objects with your mind, like Darth Vader throwing piping and different ridge work at Luke Skywalker in the Empire Strikes Back finale?
You know what? I haven't ran across any of that. It might be out there. I haven't ran across it. But I do know that before Egypt started dealing, first of all, the pyramids was built in around 2600 BC during the times of Khufu. Before then, you know, those were stone. Before then, you had what you call the mastabas, which was brick. What's crazy is the actual brick size that was being used in Kemet on the mastabas with the niche facade paneling, and also when you go to Sumer, is the same brick size. And we know that Kemet went to, in the Nakata II period, a lot of those guys went over to the east and traded with them. Why? Because we see certain minerals that is native to certain lands over in Elam. And they're trading with each other. So then we see the style of that same brick that we see with ziggurats, which are older than the pyramids, come into Kemet. And so to say that this, you know, the pyramids was built by things or how they levitated certain things, we can say that about when you start, what was that? What is that when the stones that we see that were built that are set up
Stonehenge? You talk about Stonehenge?
Yeah. We can say that about that. Those stones are huge. You know, we have huge stones. We have a huge stone that is in the Levant area. And so to say that they was using levitation by way, some people say levitation by way of sound. I mean, that's a lot of sound. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of, where's the instruments at that would have made that type of sound in order for them to levitate something? We do know that sound can cause things to levitate, but it takes a lot of sound. And also we know that they was using magnets early on, but like I say, using where's these magnets at? You know what I'm saying? You know, we see certain elements that we see that are magnets that we see among the Egyptians, among those that was in Sumer. But the first magnet that we see is being used and talked about is in Sumer earlier than we see this in Egypt. So there might be a possibility to where, you know, they was doing with on a smaller scale, but on a larger scale, these tons of rocks are huge. I would say that, you know, they limestone and core in a rock is something that they use to make the mineral, and then, you know, whatever. I mean, I don't know, but I can't really say that they levitated. I don't see nothing in the text actually. I could be wrong though, but I haven't ran across anything.
All right, so when the Egyptians, you know, had gotten beaten militarily, like for example, you know, when they had the rulers, you know, the Greek rulers over them, I wonder if they had forgotten how to utilize their force powers at that point. You know, why didn't they ever use these abilities in battle? Wouldn't that be like an amazing battle to like tactic? You know what I'm saying? To like levitate your opponent's chariot. You know, like take his wheel off. You know, with your mind. Or did they just only use it to build pyramids? I mean, I'm just saying, man. This is no documentation. This is someone who's talking about you need to study things with logic and reasoning, and you've been lied to, and all this stuff. And he's telling this guy that if he understood who he truly was, he could levitate objects with his mind. But we don't have any, you know, evidence or anything like that. And it's you know, people said the aliens built pyramids. I'm saying I think that's silly that people say that. He's got people using force powers to do it. But I mean, this is a popular Kemetic video right now. You know, so we're deconstructing it. Let me play this next part, everybody. This is where he gets into astral projection. And that's, if you know what astral projection is, you're going to hear a classic version of it espoused here in a second. If you don't know what astral projection is, just listen to what this guy says. It's astral projection. So this video's whole premise is Christianity strips you of your true spirituality. Part of apparently what he's saying is if you weren't in Christianity and embraced these ancient African practices, you could do these things, including astral projection. Listen to this.
It is the spirit inside of the body that is moving and speaking and directing, my brother. You can come out of your body anytime. At night when you go to sleep, the spirit does not go to sleep. The spirit travels. The spirit, how do you think you have visions and dreams? Sometimes you find yourself in places, different places. How do you think you get there? Your spirit goes there. You can be here and you can find yourself in Paris, France, and you have a dream about the Eiffel Tower and you walking around. Why? Because it's the spirit that is doing that. It leaves the body and travel. The body is rejuvenating for tomorrow morning. It's like a battery that you plug to recharge the phone, anything. You see what I'm saying? But your spirit never sleeps. It doesn't need food. It doesn't need water. You see what?
How common is that, the astral projection, or is that sort of unique to him?
I think this is a unique case with this brother, and as far as what he says about dreams, well, I had a dream that I was 6'4", and I played football for TCU, and the next morning I woke up and I had to go to work. So, as far as that theory, no, sir. Once again, I mean, the astral projection, I mean, these are new age concepts. I'm not sure how many people who embrace heavy Kemeticism would agree with that. I'm not going to, I don't want to pin him totally on them because I'm pretty sure they're embarrassed by now with this brother. But we see that he will pull from several different sources when it's convenient. He even pulled from the Bible when it's convenient, so to speak.
Right. So, LaRon, that's not very common. That's more just a new age thing.
No, I think it is very common. It's very ancient. And matter of fact, you know what I'm saying, a lot of it really comes from the Near East when you start looking down towards even Far East of this type of talk. And so he kind of taking some things from the East and he kind of mixing it all in the pot together, as well as some things that we see in Kemet. But for the most part, you got young Pharaoh. He's another one that talks about, astral projection, all this different stuff. And, he talks about that too. And so mainly young Pharaoh gets a lot of his information from, a lot of Near East when they talk about certain things of that manner. So I wouldn't say it's a new age. I would say it's an older thing. But, when you get off into stuff like that, that's when you get off into basically a lot of doctrines of devils and, demonic forces. And so, I think that, people are getting on this level to where they trying to get, spiritually connected with something other than themselves. And they have done that because you read in the Nag Hammadi text, which is a later text in Egypt, and they talk about certain things of that manner. And also where you see spiritual things emerging with physicality, especially when it comes to sexual favors. So that's another story. But yeah, I don't put it past that he's saying those things. That is man, that doctrine is a dark doctrine. But
Okay, and this next part, guys. Oh, you got something to say, MJ?
Yeah. Now, when I use the term New Age, I'm talking about the Americanized package of Eastern mysticism, so I don't confuse anybody. I'm saying New Age, but of course, me and G kind of talking clearly about something that's coming from the East that's been packaged for the modern man, so to speak.
Right. So definitely, that's what he's doing. He's stepping on it, mixing some stuff up. You know what I'm saying? And like I say, they always take their little spin and westernize it and create like a neo, Kemet or something like that, So.
Well, in this next part, he's gonna say that you can have visions and dreams if you tap into Kemetic spirituality that can even tell you the future, and Christianity denies you the ability to do that. And then we're only going to play one more clip and then do the freestyle and get out of here. So listen to these last two because they are shockers.
You see what I'm saying? That's the thing that we need to know about ourselves. As I these dreams, visions or whatever. You have visions, my brother, but you suppress them. because the system, the Christianity teach you to suppress visions. If you were able to not suppress your visions and these great dreams that come to you, my brother, you could know the future tomorrow or today. But they tell, oh, only God knows the future. No, that is not true. Why wouldn't your creator want you to know? Why would he separate you from that? You see what I'm saying? But they have to do that in order to control you.
Because I'm not a Chase, I'm not a Bank of America.
You see what I'm saying?
So Christianity suppresses you from dreams and visions, even though, if I remember correctly, there was this guy named Joseph, right? And he was in ancient Egypt, and he had an ability to interpret dreams that he said is from God. And the Egyptians could not interpret the dreams. They could not interpret the visions. They did not know about the famine coming. And they failed. And Joseph did interpret them properly, accurately, through God, which he said clearly, and was able to save Egypt and many well alive. Not only that, Acts 2, Peter says, is a fulfillment of Joel chapter 2. It's latter days. It means after Messiah come, I'll give you your young men visions, your old men dream. Right? I don't know what he's talking about. Now, as far as trying to tell the future, that's divination. That's not something that we're encouraged to try to do. Even though the Bible, I do believe, points to its proof in one way by the prophecies that have been fulfilled. I don't think ancient Egypt has really done that. Ironically enough, did ancient Egypt have prophecies that came to pass 500 years later? You know, is there an equivalent of a Psalm 22 text and Kemetic text? Not that I know of. But what about telling the future and the visions and the dreams? Is this also part of standard Kemetic, or is this just over to his own thing?
Let me say this. Like I said, I haven't seen a text that we see in ancient Kemet. I've been asking these guys, can you show me a text that actually tells you of things that's going to come? Or things that is to come to pass, that's going to come to pass, or things that, you know, that are even just ancient things, and I haven't seen it yet. And even God even challenges people to do so. You know what I'm saying? And so, like you say, we have plenty of text that tells you that you know, God, you know, what it means to prophesy, the prophetic, and what God has spoken, and it needs to line up with this, what the scriptures is saying, basically. So I haven't seen it in the text. You know what I'm saying? But I will say that you know, when it comes to the biblical text, it's clear that you know, God is showing things that will come to pass, and God will bring it to pass. You know, that didn't happen in Kemet. You know, and if to be honest, I'm going to say this and end it on this note, then I'm gonna fall out. This guy's in a ancient, artifact store or one of his stores, and he has all this knowledge that he says he has. And what's crazy is if you knew the future. And even if Egypt knew the future and what was going to become of them, why didn't they do anything to actually change that? You know what I'm saying? Why did they end? Why did they end up in a less fortunate state? You know, and I think that even with his situation, you know, if you have all of this different power that you have, when you go into these different trances and these different visions and stuff like that, you know, why are you so much terrified of what you say what the white man is doing to you, but you can't change your situation? And so it goes to show that, you know, people always have a spin on the literature. Also, you know, different ways they come up out of themselves because of hate, you know, and this is all people, you know what I'm saying? And what they do is they'll take little things from the Bible, from other texts, and they'll put a twist to it. Just like we see in Genesis, the serpent, he puts a twist to the very words that we see that are good things, that are truth, and he'll take those things and put a little lie in it and leaven up the whole thing into where it's just like the truth and a lie, which causes people to be deceived more. And so I just want to say that it's not even, you know, what color you are, because truth doesn't have any faces, any colors. Truth is truth. It's truth, and it can come from anybody. And are you going to uphold the truth as an individual? And so this guy, you know, if he has all this knowledge and he got all this power, you know what I'm saying, you should be up out of your, get people up out of their situation. You know, don't stop the complaining. Why complain about what you got the power to fix if you had the power? But with that being said, I just want to say grace and peace. I appreciate you, brothers. Matthew, appreciate you, Vocab, for having me to come out. I'm saying grace and peace to the family out there that's in the audience. You know what I'm saying? My prayer is that people who do come to Christ and understand what the gospel is, because it's something that's beneficial to people, you know, that are of all race and colors. And then God is not looking at a person because what color they is, but he's looking at a person that will turn unto him and be obedient. You know what I'm saying? And they will be born again, a born again person, basically.
Amen.
And so with that being said, I just want to say grace and peace. And next time, check you guys out the next time, man.
Thanks, G-Con, man. Have a great
All
night.
right, G-Con.
Everybody subscribe to his channel. We're only going to play one more clip. So here's the very last clip. And we'll see what we're going to say about this. And then we'll do the freestyle call tonight. Here we go. Last clip.
Have what they call a hobblist on top of it, or a man's penis. Just look, but people don't see. People not questioning why does a penis is on top of the church with an erection with a cross on top of it. You see what I'm saying? And you don't ask yourself, what is this doing on my church? You see what I'm saying is, what is the cross? You see what I'm saying is, and all they do, they take this, my brother, okay, and they cut this part off there and make it into a cross. You see what I'm saying is? Because they don't want you to know what these things are all about. And they tell you, oh, Jesus died on the cross. Come on. No, my brother. That ain't the truth. I'm telling you. I'm just, what I'm telling you, I'm giving you stuff for you to really think about, for you to question, and for you to go research. I'm not telling you to take my word, because I don't want you to do that. I want you to find out for yourself, because I want every black person, young and old, male and female, I want them to go and research these things and find out for themselves.
All right, MJ, so what's up with the steeple, bro? What's up with the steeple?
Well, I mean, so much for the story of, Aset's miraculous birth of Heru or Horus, since a penis needed to be fashioned. So we could just go ahead and, the cat's out of the bag.
Egypt is the one with the sort of obsession with missing penises and stuff.
Exactly.
That's what the weird thing is, not all churches have steeples, first of all. He's referring to the steeple, everybody. That's what he's trying to point to. But those that do, there's a distinct reason why that came about. And you can look up the actual history of the steeple. It does not have anything to do with what he's saying. And, you can read the biblical text. Do you see a preoccupation with the male member in the biblical text? You don't see that kind of thing. You don't see that. In fact, they were encouraged against those practices and those gods, because we can see the ancient Near Eastern gods, and that was a common thing, was sort of ridiculously, almost like caricatures of human genitalia, like enlarged and engorged, body parts and stuff like that. We could see the figurines and stuff like that in a lot of the other ancient Near Eastern religions. The Hebrews were always told to stay away from that stuff, you know what I'm saying? And it's clearly not in the biblical text. Doesn't mean the Israelites never did it, because they'd worship idols. We know that. But I mean, it's just it's a bizarre thing of what he's trying to say there, that the steeple equals. He's trying to say the church steeple equals the Egyptian penis, is what he's trying to say.
But yeah, I mean, his whole presentation begs the question as to what standard do we use for determining what's true.
Yep. Because
you've given this no sources, anything like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, what standard do we use to determine what's true? And I mean, is there truth? Because according to this pantheistic / panentheistic model, the white man is not evil, because the white man is God, and I'm God, and everybody's God. Therefore, God is a distinction without a difference. So what can we really complain about anyway?
Right.
So
this is true. This is what we're dealing with. And here's the thing. So there's a lot to learn about the new version of Kemeticism, and we're trying to introduce people to it. But at the same time, we understand that he in this video doesn't represent everything that everybody believes. We understand that. But the thing is, this is a very popular video right now, making the rounds. It's like blowing up. And if you look the video comments on all these, people were just talking about, oh, this is truth, and this is, this is fire, and this brother's dropping knowledge and wisdom and stuff like that. I mean, you get a whole lot of that. So people were eating this up, and we wouldn't stop and break it down. And we went a little bit longer than we normally would, but everybody did a good job, and now it's time for me to freestyle because you guys in the Super Chat made it happen. You know how we do? 50 in the Super Chat, 100 viewers equals a freestyle, so I got to do one. MJ, final words, man. I appreciate you joining because you and G-Con break it down. Adam Coleman couldn't do it tonight, but you three, between the three of you, got quite a formidable panel on these issues of Kemet science, and I think we need to do this more.
I appreciate you for letting me come on, and I appreciate my brother G-Con also giving that little sermonette at the end as well. But that brother's a wealth of knowledge. But if we can say anything, I will call on my Kemetic brothers to, when you see something out here like this, and this brother borrowing Kemetic concept and really pimping Kemet like that, but yet you sit on a sideline and you won't say nothing because it's popular to attack Christianity. Well, I mean, that's hypocrisy if say anything, because he's misrepresenting Kemet, but you're not responding to him. It takes three guys like us to come along and to dismantle and really reveal his falsehoods. So I would challenge you guys to step up to the plate and call people out like that. No
doubt. Great point, MJ. You can stick around. It's up to you. It's freestyle time. Thank you for everyone for making this happen. I'm getting amped up. I got a beat by Jonathan Soko, and we're going to turn it up, and you guys tell me about the volume level, and this is how we'll end this edition of Street Apologist. Be sure to join tomorrow when we go live and talk about 6 folks from Black church history that you need to know. This is the second part of a 5-part series I'm going to be doing with Isaiah Robertson, a very knowledgeable pastor in Atlanta, and we're going to break down 6 missionary evangelists. So let's test this beat right now. Ooh, that's a nice beat. Now, unfortunately, MJ, you can't hear the beat unless you go on the YouTube version and listen without me hearing it. Then you could hear it.
I'm playing it on my phone.
All right, cool. So you'll be a little bit delayed, but it's all good. So, guys, how about this volume levels? Let me know. If I'm rapping right about here, how will it sound? Let me know. We put it down. Everybody, let me know. Let me know, y'all. Is that a good volume level? All right, again, thanks for making this happen, all the folks who made it happen. Let me just give you guys a love, actually, real quick here, because we got an amazing group of people who keep this channel running, keep the content going. I wish I could give you guys more love than I do. Much love to you, Nate. You set it off. Much love to Lily R. You hold it down from BKLYM. Much love to D New from Canada/Detroit. Much love to Roxby. She was a heavy hitter tonight, as she often is. I know it's late for you, Roxby, even though you're on the West Coast. You get sweepy. And much love to Lily R. for bringing up the backup and making it go down. So, great people. All right, everybody's saying the volume's good. Look, I don't claim to be the dopest MC, so this is the first time you're watching this. I'm not doing this because I'm, like, dope. I do it because we have fun, and people seem to like it. And if you don't like it, it's all right. I ain't going to hate. You can sign off. This is just to have fun. And right now, it's time. So, I got that beat. I'm excited. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Jonathan Soko brought the fire with this one. Ooh, yeah. Got my list of topics. There's a rocket with the optics. He didn't discuss reality. He discussed a cave mentality. He discussed Christianity and slave. He said white man from a cave. Yes, y'all, that's helter skelter. Everybody lives in caves for shelter. It's really not that odd. He even said that dog is God. That was odd. It's an anagram. Come on, man, don't you understand? This is a weird religion. Pantheism. I'm a Christian. Listen, this is not a written. And now I will yell. This dude said the Pope denies hell. Well, he might have. He's weird as far as I can tell. But peep this 1, 2, 3, 4. He never said Jesus was a metaphor. Listen, there's missionaries in North Africa. It's not legendary. That's how the gospel reached Africa. Not through getting beat. I laugh at the bad scholarship. This dude the trip. And yo, peep it out. He needs to take a trip. to the site that has a lot of pure dope. You know it, www.snopes.com. I rock on. Now we go to the story of creation. This dude had an argument that was the wackest. He said that the darkness, it meant blackness. He needs to practice some hermeneutic. He went 3 chapters and then he doed it. What did he do? Did you listen? He said Genesis 4 is a contradiction. Cause he said, where did he find a wife? Listen, Adam and Eve, they were the type that made a whole lot. So yes, there's a sister. Don't you understand? Come on, mister, brother. Listen, we blew your cover. I am a God lover, okay? There is no other. The one true holy. Y'all know the God who made you, black people, not the OG. Adam and Eve, we never seen a picture, see. Listen, what I'm saying, you know we're not playing. So we do this with the ill type of flow. The Bible's not ripped off from hieroglyphic. I spit it, I hit it, I rip it. This dude's argument was kinda rare. He said white people have animal hair. The horse, of course, the dog lay it down, and he has the antenna on his crown. But yo, you had the hat, that's whack. How you gonna have the frequency with that? Hey yo, what's the plan? That might make a jam. The jam in the radar. Hey yo, my man, listen. Now I'm spitting the truth. The dude straight said that he was a black Luke Skywalker. I'm a Ishtaka. The dude was talking about Star Wars Chewbacca with this like long hour speech. He was saying he could have force power and reach and levitate an object with his mind. He said that's how the pyramids was built, not from alien kind, but from a human mind. He said they got the power like they so divine, but this is false, it's pure deception, and that's why he's talking astral projection. He said the weapon is a dream and a vision. Said you can tell the future, and Christian strips you of your true spirituality, but this video strips you of reality. I fell off a few times, but overall it worked. You know, we're trying to just look at the list here. If I would have went a little bit longer, we would have got to the the steeple thing. So maybe it's a good thing we didn't. So that's it, man. Hey, MJ, final words. How do people subscribe to your channel, bro?
You can subscribe to my channel. A few people have listed it in the link. It's the Urban Christian Institute, MJ Jackson. Please go there and subscribe. I'm going to be at least doing 1 episode per month, maybe more. But I'm getting ready to start really heavy into my master's studies. So please go and subscribe, and we'll try to dive deeper into videos like these, and we'll deal with theological and philosophical concepts. And you know, that's where I'm going to bring my expertise in at that.
Nice, man. Hey, thanks again for joining, MJ. Could not do it without you. Everyone keep Adam Cohen in prayer. Brother's losing his voice. And be sure to subscribe to him as well. True ID and LeBron G-Con. Thanks for joining tonight. Thanks you guys for making it happen. Much love to y'all. If you're Kemetic, hey, we got love for you too, and love to talk to you, some of y'all in the future. But we like to have a little bit of fun with apologetics, but we try not to do it in a mean spirit, and hopefully y'all can catch that, because Hebrew Israelites aren't known for their sense of humor, and I'm hoping some of the Kemetic cats can have a little more fun. Even though we're discussing serious issues, we like to make apologetics fun again. And with that, Street Apologist is out. Peace out. Shout out. No doubt. Shalom.
Turn your radio up. Whoa. Radio time. Whoa. You're now listening to Street Apologist. Street Apologist. Street Apologist. Street Apologist. On the radio. Street Apologist. Street Apologist. Street Apologist.